the question first.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Hannah has a question.
No, I was just going to ask if the book that you bought at the Yom Iyun.
Yeah, it hasn't arrived yet.
They
didn't have it on sale there. I had to order it from Amazon, so it's not arrived yet.
Okay.
I'll let you know when it comes. Right, we are in Sanhedrin, right at the bottom of Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, 21a. I will put it on the screen for you straight away. Right, there we go. Let me know when it's there.
There.
Yeah.
There we go. Right, excellent. Where have you all gone? Can't see any of you now.
Yep. Can see you.
I can't see any of you now, so I need to find you. I need to find you back again. Where have you all gone? Let me unshare and see if that helps. Right, so that's better. You're back again now.
Oh, I've lost the page though, John.
Yeah, why did that go away when something not right here? Layout. Right, there we go. You are back. Okay, you're back. Fine. Now then, we stopped last week in the middle of the story of Amnon and Tamar. The Gemarah wanted to know why Amnon hated Tamar so much after he had raped her. And we spoke about it in some detail, and I think that we all agreed with Julia that really the one he hated was himself. And this was an example of transference. He transferred his feelings for himself onto Tamar. And the Gemarah, of course, gave us this rather bizarre reason why he would hate her. And we stopped in the middle of that. So the Gemarah says here, at the end of the story, the verse states, Amnon sinah gdola ma'od. And Amnon hated her with a great hatred. Let's go to the pasuk. There it is. There we go. Verse 15. Amnon sinah gdola ma'od. Ki gdola hasinah shesnea me'ava she'aiva. He hated her more than he'd even loved her before. And that was so much that he made himself ill. He was that lovesick. And now he's absolutely hate sick. So that's what the Gemarah is asking us. Well, why was this hatred there? And Amnon said to her, Vayomela, Amnon, Kumi, Lechi, get up and go, get out of here. A dreadful, dreadful experience here. So why does Amnon hate Tamar so much? Well, the Gemarah tells us the following. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Nima nikshiralo va'asatu krut shafcha. A pubic hair of hers entwined itself around his penis and severed it, making him into a krut shafcha. Krut shafcha is a halachic category of person who has actually it usually refers to crushed testicles rather than a severed penis. But you know the outcome is much the same, i.e., that you are a eunuch. Krut shafcha makes you a eunuch. Can't have any kind of sexual relations. Not the normal understanding of krut shafcha is
cutting off the spilling or something.
That's right. Karut means to cut, like as in karet. You're quite right, Johnny. Shafcha, where it's spilled from. So the normal situation in halacha, and it's an important halacha, this krut shafcha, because there is a big question mark as to the validity in halacha, i.e. whether you are allowed as a male to have a male sterilization. What do they do in a male sterilization? Does anybody know? I won't ask any males if they've been sterilized. That would be a bit personal.
Today or at times gone by?
Today, to start with.
They tie the tube, the tube that carries the sperm down to procreate.
Very good. Yes, that's a fair description. So, a quick anatomy lesson. The sperms are made in the testicles, and then they are carried through from the testicles to the penis, to the tube of the penis called the urethra, and then at the time of the intercourse, the sperm is ejaculated through the penis. And the tube that carries the sperm from the testicles where they're made to the penis where they are ejaculated is called the vas deferens. V-A-S, vas deferens. Okay, vas deferens. Now,
also today it's reversible.
Sometimes. So if you cut or remove that tube, that would be called a what?
Sterilization.
Yeah. What's the name of that operation? It's called a vasectomy. A vasectomy. Yeah. Okay, you've all heard that word, vasectomy. What does ectomy mean? Ectomy means to be removed. Appendicectomy. Yeah. So an ectomy means to remove something. So a vasectomy is removal of the vas. So what they used to do was they used to cut a little bit of the vas out and then sew it up at each end. So the sperms couldn't bridge the gap. Okay. So that was called a vasectomy. What they do today is slightly different. They don't actually cut a bit out. But anyway, the result is the same, and that is that the sperms can't get to where they're meant to go to do the job of fertilizing the egg. And that is called krut shafcha. So according to many, I would go far as to say most halachic authorities, a male sterilization, a vasectomy, is asur dioraita. It is a Torah prohibition, not allowed. Okay. How did we get onto that? Oh yeah, krut shafcha. So that's what a krut shafcha is. A krut shafcha is anything that prevents the action of procreation. So a person now, it's also got halachic implications, because somebody who is a krut shafcha, there is a question mark as to whether he's allowed to marry. Right? So let's say somebody, and I've had this more than one occasion in my career. A chap has a vasectomy when he is not a religious Jew. Okay? He's a secular Jew. He has a vasectomy because he doesn't want to have any more children. And then he is chozer b'tshuva. He becomes a religious Jew. So there is a question as to whether he's allowed to be married, whether he's allowed to be married to his wife, whether he's allowed to have relations with his wife. And so I had one case which sounds absurd, that this man became frum in his 60s. His wife was also in her late 50s or 60s, certainly post-menopausal, no chance of her becoming pregnant. And yet he had to undergo a reversal of his vasectomy in order that he could stay married and have relations with his wife. Sounds absurd, but that's one of the quirks of this halacha of krut shafcha. So it does have, krut shafcha does have modern day implications. It also has implications if a person has to have a testicle removed because of torsion. Sometimes you can get a twist in the testicle. It usually happens to young men or boys, and then you have to have the testicle removed. If you've still got one, then you're not a krut shafcha because you can manage perfectly well with one. But if it happens and you have to have a second one removed, then that is problematic as well. Yes, Hannah?
It would also come into play in this day and age, unfortunately, with soldiers who are injured, married soldiers that are injured, or, you know, he also presents a serious problem.
Yes, absolutely. So here in our Gemarah, this krut shafcha is not what we would call the normal krut shafcha, where there's a problem either with the vas or the testicles. This is the effect is that it makes him into a krut shafcha because he's had his penis severed, a bit like Mr. Bobbitt. You remember the story of Mrs. Everybody knows the story of Mrs. Bobbitt. What a brilliant name that is. Mrs. Bobbitt, for those that don't know, was a woman who found out that her husband was having extramarital relationships, and she took matters into her hand and cut off his penis as a punishment for that, and that became known as a bobbit for obvious reasons. So you think that Mrs. Bobbitt was the first to do such a thing? Absolutely not. Tamar, it appears, was the original Mrs. Bobbitt. So Rabbi Yitzchak says that this is what happened, and that's why he hated her. Hardly surprising. But then the Gemarah asks a question. V'chi nikshara lo ihi my avda. If this pubic hair became entangled with his penis and caused it to be severed, what's that got to do with her? She didn't do it on purpose. Well, why should he hate her for it? It's not fair. She didn't do anything.
Is it possible?
Is it possible? You mean physically? I don't think so. No, I can't imagine it.
Hair with the hair. We all know what a hair is.
Yeah, I do find it rather difficult to understand. That is true, but we have to just take it for the moment at face value, because that's what the Gemarah says.
Johnny,
one sec, Jackie. Julia first, and then Jackie.
Well, at that point, which is when I've been thinking about it during the week, because I didn't read further, I thought, well, yes, this is very sensible, actually, what they're proposing, because what it is a lesson to rapists or potential rapists. In other words, you don't go there, you don't do it, because look what might happen to you.
Right, and you'll see there are other lessons to be learned as well, which go even further than that, Julia. So you're quite right. This whole thing is indeed there for a lesson. Did it really happen or not? Who knows? But this is what the Gemarah is suggesting. I don't think it really matters whether it did or it didn't. It's there to teach us a lesson. If you're asking me what I really think, Hannah, no, I don't think it happened. I think this is meant to be taken allegorically, but I guess there will be people who take it literally. Yes, Jackie.
Amnon couldn't have been a Cohen by any chance, could he?
No, he was the son of David.
Right. Definitely not Cohen.
Definitely not a Cohen. Why'd you ask?
Because if a Cohen's got crushed testicles, he can't duck them.
That is true. That is true, yes. But no, he was a son of David, so he was from the tribe of Yehuda.
Right, thanks.
So the Gemarah says, not her fault. So then the Gemarah changes its view. It says, Ela Ema. So rather say this, Kashra lo Nima. Now it becomes even more difficult to sort of imagine. She herself intentionally wound this hair round his penis during intercourse, va'asatu krut and severed it in order to take revenge on him, and therefore he hated her for this reason. Okay, that's what the Gemarah says. Now, this is how the Gemarah is so, in one way, fascinating, and in another way, a little bit infuriating, because we're going to go off now on a complete tangent based on pubic hairs, right? And it always becomes a bit absurd, but it's a good example of how the Gemarah works. So where are we up to at the moment? Amnon hates Tamar. The Gemarah does not suggest transference as a reason. Suggests that he hates her because he had his penis severed by her pubic hair, either intentionally or unintentionally. And now the Gemarah challenges it again. And the Gemarah says, Ini, is that the case? Vaha darash Rabbah. Has Rava not given us a drosha on the following pasuk? My dichtiv, where it is written, Vayetze lach shem bagoyim beyofyech, and your renown went forth among the nations about your beauty. In other words, the whole world knows how beautiful you are. And this comes, as it says over here in the Gemarah, from the prophet Yecheskel. I shall show you the prophet Yecheskel right now. Okay, there is the prophet Yecheskel. It is chapter 16 of Yecheskel. And what is this talking about? So Yecheskel, Ezekiel, was a prophet. And he, like many prophets, was giving a lot of Musa droshas to the Jewish people. They were misbehaving, and he was telling them that if they carry on misbehaving, bad things are going to happen. So here he is giving a good rebuke to the Bnei Yisrael. This is chapter 16 of Yecheskel. And then the word of Hashem came to me, saying, Son of man, let Jerusalem know its abominations. In other words, this is how rotten you are. And you shall say, so says Hashem to Jerusalem, as if he's speaking actually to the city. This is very appropriate, of course, for Tisha B'Av that we've just had. Your dwelling place and your birth are from the land of the Canaanites. Your father was the Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. Who's he talking about there? Who is the Amorite and the Hittite from the Eretz HaKanani?
Esau?
Have a look. Rashi tells us. There we go. Abraham and Sarah. Sarah was a Hittite. Abraham came from Aram Naharayim. Okay. So don't think that you're such a knacker, Yerushalayim. You know, we start with Aramei over Davi. Remember we start in the Haggadah. Our father was a wandering Aramean, etc. And look what he says about Jerusalem. As for your birth, on the day you were born, your navel was not cut, neither were you washed with water for cleansing, nor were you salted, nor swaddled at all. Nobody loved you. No eye pitied you enough to do any for those to you, to have mercy on you, and you are cast on the open field in the loathsomeness of your body on the day you were born. In other words, Hashem is saying to Yerushalayim, in other words, to the Jewish people, if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for me, Hashem, you would have been rejected completely. And I passed by you and I saw you downtrodden with your blood, and I said to you, with your blood live. And I said to you, with your blood live. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of the dross heap and took him and looked after us. By the way, what I've just said in Hebrew, you might recognize. Ve'evor alayich ve'ereich mitboseses bedamayich ve'omer lach bedamayich chayi ve'omer lach bedamayich chayi. Where is that from?
That from a bris.
Very good, Johnny. That's
Yeah.
exactly where it's from. We say it at a bris. Yes.
I've heard you say it a few times.
You have indeed heard me say it a few times, and I have said it a few times. I must have said that 1,000 times. I didn't know it was from Yecheskel until today. How awful is that? What an admission. Terrible. Anyway, that's where it's from. HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
In the Haggadah as well, Johnny.
It is indeed in the Haggadah. Yes, we say it in the Haggadah, correct. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks after us. And then he says, myriads like the plants of the fields I have made you, and you have increased and grown, have you become perfect beauty, breasts fashioned and your hair grown, but you were naked and bare. In other words, I, Hashem, am the one who've made you what you are, Jerusalem. So just remember that. That's what Yecheskel's saying. Okay. And then we get to you, and he says here, all of these things, verses 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 says, I adorned you with gold and silver, and I made you beautiful, and I embroidered cloth for you, and you had honey and oil, and you became exceedingly beautiful, and you became fit for the throne. This is Yecheskel referring to what Hashem has said about Jerusalem. You started off as a nothing, and I, Hashem, made you into what you are. And then verse 14, this is our pasuk. Then your name went out among the nations for your beauty. In other words, the whole world heard about how wonderful and beautiful Jerusalem was, i.e. the Jewish people, not just Jerusalem, the city, but the Jewish people. So this chapter begins by Hashem saying how downtrodden we were. Nobody even cared about us. They didn't care about us enough even to wash us when we were born. Shem came along and made us into the most beautiful people. And by the verse 14, we are well known amongst the nations for our beauty. And this is the pasuk that our Gemarah is darshaning, that Rava is darshaning. So ha darash Rava, didn't Rava darshan? My dichsiv, when it's written, Vayetze lach shem bagoyim yofyech, your renown, your beauty, your renown, you're famous amongst the nations for your beauty. What does it mean? In what way were the Jewish people so beautiful? Listen to this. She'ein lahen livnot Yisrael, lo sa'ar bet hashechi, velo bet ha'erva. Jewish women do not have hair in their armpits or in the pubic region. That is what they were famous for, right? Jewish women were famous amongst the nations for not having a body hair in the armpits or the pubic area. So what? So what? Why is it telling us that now, Julia?
Because it would have been impossible for her to have put the hair to.
This is the Gemarah. Gemarah's just told us that Tamar's pubic hair has severed Amnon's penis. Well, how is that possible? Jewish women don't have pubic hair, right? And the answer is, without looking on, Julia,
He hasn't had a shave that day.
She wasn't Jewish, was she? That's the whole point of this Gemarah. The whole point of the Gemarah is to prove that Tamar was what? Tamar was a daughter of a beautiful captive, an Eshet Yifat Torah. So the Gemarah says, Shane Tamar. Tamar was different. Debat Yifat Torah Have. She was the daughter of a beautiful woman who was a Gentile, and therefore she got her genetic characteristics not from the Jewish women, but from the Gentile women. And so therefore, Tamar did have pubic hair and was able to do what she did. Now then, there is a problem here with this Gemara that says that Jewish women do not have pubic hair. What's the problem?
It was Absalom's sister.
So,
How can she not be Jewish?
well, we've been through all that in the last couple of weeks. She was a daughter of
Exactly.
she was a daughter of Yifatoah. Forget Tamar. We're talking about Jewish women in general now, who, according to Rava, do not have pubic hair. What's the problem with that?
Well, is he talking about it being shaved?
Okay, well, that's interesting because
Maybe they can't go to the mikveh.
because if you look at the bottom here, Rav Steinsaltz suggests what you have said, Julia. Some commentaries explain that the Jewish women had the custom to shave their armpit and pubic hair off for cosmetic reasons, as reported in other places in the Gemarah. Okay, so that's one explanation. And again, Ein Chadash Tachat HaShemesh, right? I am told, reliably informed, that this is a trend today. Well, we know that, don't we? That women generally shave at least their armpits and possibly other bits as well. This is what, according to this opinion, this was a Jewish custom way back when. But the Aruch brings a different problem, which is in the Art Scroll explanation here. So can anybody think of it before I tell you what it is? I'll be very impressed if you can. So it says here.
Puberty.
Say that again.
Is it to do with puberty?
Yes, excellent, Julia. Exactly to do with puberty. How do we determine puberty in Jewish law? Correct. We determine whether a person is a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah, not when they turn 13, which is what we do today, but the strict interpretation of the halacha, to be a gadol or a gdolah, if you're a woman, you have to have what?
2 pubic hairs, I think.
Correct, Johnny. 2 pubic hairs. You have to have signs of puberty, okay? Which in a girl is usually round about the age of 12, and in a boy is usually round about the age of 13, which is where we get the idea of bat mitzvah of 12 and bar mitzvah of 13. It's nothing magical about the 12th birthday and the 13th birthday, although we've made it magical, haven't we? Because on a boy's 13th birthday, he is assumed to be a gadol, and therefore he has to start doing the mitzvot. So we give him his tefillin, because when he is a gadol. But the truth is that if a boy was precocious in his puberty, and let's say he had the signs of puberty, i.e. 2 pubic hairs, way before his 13th birthday, al pi halacha, strict halacha, he would be chayav the mitzvahs by then, and he would have to put his tefillin on. We don't do that, and we don't check it, and we don't say to the boys, right, drop your pants, we need to see whether you need to put your tefillin on or not. We assume it happens at the 13th birthday. That's how it's become. Which is why, by the way, the whole inyan of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah is a fairly modern, when I say modern, I mean not ancient or not very ancient institution. You won't read about bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah in any of the Gemaras or any of the Tanakh or anything. It's a fairly late invention. I'm not sure quite how late. I've got in my mind that it's at the time of the Geonim, but I'm a bit vague on that, and I might need to check that out. Maybe somebody could check that out for me while we're talking. David, do you want to try and check that out for us? What is the origin? Where is the earliest time that we read about bar mitzvah? Yes, Hannah.
Yeah, but and you have the section in the Torah about when a girl becomes an adult,
Correct.
which is at 12 years old. Until 12 and a half, her father can still have a say, and then after that, she's an adult.
Where does it say in the Torah 12 and a half years? Michael Krauss has got the answer.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It does. It does.
Where does it say 12 and a half? It calls her a na'ara, and the rabbis interpret that to be 12 and a half. Why? Because that's a time when they become fertile and able to have children. But you will not find, you can go and look it up if you want, Hannah, start at the beginning in Bereshit and end up in Dvarim, and see if you can find where it says 12 and a half. I'll save you the bother. It doesn't, as Michael has already told you. So you're absolutely right that there is an interpretation of 12 and a half, and that is Na'ara. And we also speak about it in Parashat Ki Teitzei, when we talk about the Ben Soreh or Moreh. There's a certain period of time, but that's all interpretation by the rabbis. It's not brought down in the Torah itself. David, have you found anything for us yet?
Yeah, I've gone the old-fashioned route. 15th century.
15th century, even later than I thought. Okay, so much later. So the idea of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah is a fairly modern in relative terms, because the method of establishing
bat mitzvah 19th century.
Yeah, bat mitzvah, of course, is as you would say in where I come from, moderne Sachen, or moderne Sachen, to be correct, moderne Sachen. You know, all modern things, very to be poo-pooed. Bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah are modern inventions, which is why, of course, there is we don't make such a fuss of it. We even say, Ashkenazim at least, say tachanun on the day of a bar mitzvah, whereas we wouldn't say tachanun on the day of a wedding, when the chosim was in shul. So the method of establishing maturity for the sake of whether you are an adult or not, according to the Torah, is shtei sa'arot, is two pubic hairs. Now, this does have implications, just as an aside, does have implications for bar mitzvah and not so much for bat mitzvah, unless you go to a partnership minyan, but certainly for bar mitzvah. And this actually happened in my family. What possible implications could this have for a bar mitzvah boy? Any suggestions? David?
I don't understand the question, Johnny.
Okay, the question is this. We say a bar mitzvah boy is when he's 13. Now, that's him a gadol, right?
Yeah.
But if he hasn't physically developed
the traditional halachic method of checking is for 2 pubic hairs. What is the halachic consequence of that?
He may not have developed.
He may not have developed, and therefore,
well, he's not considered gadol,
and therefore
shouldn't be having his bar mitzvah.
Doesn't have to do the mitzvah, any mitzvah.
Okay, he doesn't have to do the mitzvahs, but you can do the mitzvahs without being a gadol. In my family, we put our tefillin on a month before a bar mitzvah. You can do it a year before if you want. It's all practice. Whatever you do as a child, you know, if you say a bracha as a child, it doesn't mean that just because you're not obliged to say it because you're not an adult, doesn't mean that you can or you can't, it means. But there is something that he cannot do, this bar mitzvah boy, if he is not a gadol. This particular bar mitzvah boy. He can't make up a minyan, that's true.
I'll be given an aliyah.
He can't be given an aliyah. Well, That's true as well, but that's Durabanan. I'm talking about a Dioraita.
He couldn't duchen if he was a Cohen.
Again, Durabanan. You're right. Well, he can duchen because we do have him duchening, but he can't count as a Cohen. You're right. But Durabanan, there's a Dioraita which is relevant to this particular bar mitzvah boy. I'm expecting David to think logically, laterally here, and to get it.
Can't be called up for Parshas Zohar.
Yeah, he can't read Parshas Zohar. He can't read Parshas Zohar. Parshas Zohar, and according to some, Parshas Porah is a Dioraita. Parshat Zachor, of course, is the story of Amalek. Parshat Parah is the story of the Parah Aduma, the red heifer. According to all opinions, Parshat Zachor is a Dioraita, right? You've got to hear Parshat Zachor from, and it's got to be from somebody who is mechuyav, somebody who is obligated to hear it, can only read it for you. So a bar mitzvah boy, somebody whose bar mitzvah turns out to be Parshat Zachor, cannot read the maftir of Parshat Zachor. Now, my son...
I thought they could. I thought, Johnny, one of my grandsons, I made the brachas, I think. And he
can't lane it. He can't lane it. He can make...
For one of them, I can't remember which one it was now.
The Haftorah maybe, but not the maftir.
The Haftarah, yeah.
Not the maftir. So he could not lane Parshat Zachor. If he's somebody who was born in the week before Purim, whose bar mitzvah turns out to be the Shabbat before Purim, which is Parshat Zachor, cannot get the traditional aliyah for a bar mitzvah boy of maftir, and cannot read the maftir, cannot read Parshat Zachor for everybody else. Now, my son, Bobby, those of you who know Bobby, if I was to ask you what day he was born on, there's only be one sensible answer. He was born on Purim, okay? And so his bar mitzvah was the Shabbat after Purim, which is Parshat Parah. So he was not allowed to read the maftir. He could read the Haftorah, but he could not read the maftir because there was a doubt. Now, we didn't check whether he did or he didn't have 2 pubic hairs, but there is a doubt. And when there is a doubt and it is a dioraita, we have a concept, safek dioraita lechumra, meaning if there is a doubt about a Torah law, we take the strict interpretation. So he could not have the maftir, could not read the maftir of his bar mitzvah. He read the Sedra, which was Tzav, and he read the Haftorah, but he did not read the maftir. My older son, Akiva, who is 2 years older than him, or nearly 2 years older than him, so he was almost 15 at this point, was definitely a gadol, al pi halacha, and he read the maftir for him. So
there are many Orthodox communities, Ashkenaz communities, that do allow the mitzvah boy to lane Zohar, Johnny.
Orthodox in
No.
what regard?
Yes, I've been in communities where they've allowed it.
In Minhag Anglia.
And I think Israel.
Certainly, where I come from,
I would refute that. Sorry, not in London. Wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Certainly, where I come from, in the holy city of Manchester, it would not be allowed. But you may be right, David. But the point is, it doesn't matter whether it is or isn't. You know, there may well be places. There are places that allow women to do it, David. But the point that I'm making is about this interesting idea that puberty is decided by what's the word? The transition, if we can use a modern term, the transition from being a minor to a person who is obligated in Jewish law is decided by 2 pubic hairs. And therefore, as Julia has very, very correctly and cleverly pointed out, Rava's got a problem because if Rava is right, and that is that not that the women shaved their hair, but actually, according to Rava, they didn't even grow it in the first place, and that was the beauty of them, as it were, from this pasuk, then we would have a problem with how to establish whether somebody was a minor or a person of obligation. So that is the very interesting idea there, coming from Yecheskel, that it is considered a beautiful thing amongst the nations to be shaven in those areas. And it just shows you, doesn't it, how styles change, because there was a time when, it was very fashionable to be hairy, and certainly, hairy armpits were very fashionable back in the 60s and 70s. No, not true. Well, they were in France. They were in France, Julia. Anyway, let's not go there. Let's carry on in the Gemarah. Let's carry on in the Gemarah. Because the next piece of Gemarah I found utterly fascinating for its modernity and its, if you like, implications for the modern world. I just found this next piece of Gemarah really, really interesting, and I wonder whether you will as well. We're now over the page. We have now progressed to Chaf Aleph Amud Bet. Well, actually, right at the bottom of the page, we're going to turn it over now. Vatikach Tamar Efer al Rosha ve'et ktonet hapasim asher aleha kara'a. We're back in Shmuel, the story of Tamar and Amnon. Amnon told her, "Get up and go, get out of here," and she begged him not to do this, and he kicked her out. And verse 18 and 19 now on the screen for you. Now she had on a striped tunic, va'aleha ktonet pasim. Ktonet pasim. Where have you heard that before?
Yosef.
Yes, Yosef. Let's have a quick look at it. It's over there in Bereshit, verse 3 here. V'Yisrael ahavet Yosef mikol banav, and Yisrael, meaning Yaakov, loved Yosef from more than all his other sons. The beginning of the biggest problem that we ever had, the source of all our problems forevermore, was Yaakov's favoritism of Yosef, led to the Yosef story of being sold, led us going down to Egypt, led us to the tribal rivalry, led us to the breakup of the kingdom, etc., etc.
You don't think that's a little bit harsh?
No, not at all. Vayisrael ahavet Yosef mikol banav ki ven zakunihim lo va'asalo ktonet pasim, and he made him a fine woolen coat. We would call it a coat of
many colours.
A coat of many colours. And why would we call it a coat of many colours? Because we've all seen the musical, haven't we? Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Absolutely magnificent piece of work by Andrew Lloyd Webber and what's the other guy called?
Tim Rice.
Tim Rice. Was it Tim Rice? Yeah, Tim Rice. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, where did they get it from? Well, turns out they got it from Rashi. Now, that's why I've put the Rashi on the screen for you. Have a look at what Rashi says. Pasim, he says, Lashon Klei Melat, meaning a fine woolen garment. Kamo karpas. Karpas. Where have you heard the word karpas before?
Parsley.
Well,
Sederite.
Yes, Sederite is correct. Johnny, you say parsley only because you, in your family, have cut parsley for karpas, as did I as did I when I was a child. Do you still have parsley for karpas?
Yes.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
Jackie does.
Yes.
What does everybody have for karpas? Michael, what do you have for karpas?
Pass.
Tomato.
What?
It doesn't know.
Oh, you can't remember what you have for karpas on Seder night. You know the thing you dip in the
Lettuce.
lettuce. Okay, so Michael has lettuce. What about you, Hannah? What do you have?
Celery.
Celery. Okay, Julia, what do you have?
Well, I have an argument with my daughter because we have lettuce and it's a tradition, and she insists that that is totally wrong, and she insists on celery.
Okay, well, she's right, actually.
I don't care.
Because lettuce is traditionally what we use for maror.
That's what she tells me. That's what she tells me. But
She's
it's
right.
tradition.
Now, we also used parsley when I was a kid. So why did we, Johnny, you and I, why did you use parsley? And why, Jackie, you said you still use parsley, do you?
Yes. Well, I went to a shiur from a rabbi, and he said he uses chips. They make chips.
Chips of what? Potato
chips. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I use today. I use potato. But in my youth, we used parsley. Why did we use parsley, and why do you use parsley, Jackie? And why do you use parsley, Johnny?
Because my mum used parsley.
And why did she use parsley? Because her mum used it.
Because she grew it in the garden, most probably.
Right. No, I'll tell you why they used it. Because it's green.
Green.
Because it's green. And if you look in the old-fashioned Haggadahs, you will see karpas translated as greens. Greens, right?
Which is lettuce.
Oh, lettuce is a green, but we tend to use lettuce for maror, and therefore we can't use it for karpas as well because it's confusing.
Actually, despite the fact that we use celery now here, as a child, I remember that we had potato.
Right, now I use potato. I use potato, boiled potato. Jackie says that somebody there uses chips. Well, potatoes, actually, when they're in the ground, they are a bit greeny. But if you look in the Haggadah of the old-fashioned translation, you'll find that karpas is translated as greens. And that is a bit of an old-fashioned word for vegetables, isn't it? Eat your greens.
Yeah.
You were taught they had to eat your greens.
Yes.
Okay. My son-in-law, Daniel Mednick, who some of you know, will not eat anything that is green. He will not touch anything that's green. He'll eat orange vegetables.
One here as well.
He'll eat orange vegetables. He'll eat sweet potato, and he'll eat potato, but he will not touch anything that's green. If it's green, forget it. He won't eat it. So karpas is green. And the reason we use celery or we use parsley is the reason we use parsley is because our grandparents used parsley. And the reason they use parsley is because it's a beautiful dark green, isn't it? Parsley's a real, I hated it, by the way, as a kid. It's bitter. I would have rather used parsley for maror because it's much bitterer than lettuce. But anyway, I digress. Look at Rashi on this word ktonet pasim. Rashi says, kamo karpas, like green wool, right? Utechelet, and blue wool, right? Karpas utechelet. So when he says a ktonet pasim, it's a coat of blue and green. Blue and green are two different colors. There you have the origin of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Okay, so without knowing it, Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber were quoting Rashi. Now look what Rashi says. Fascinating. I asked you about this coat that Tamar is wearing. What does that remind you of? And you all said Joseph. But Rashi says that the Joseph coat reminded him of Tamar and Amnon. The other way around. Look what Rashi says. Ukamo ktonit pasim de Tamar va'Amnon. Like the coat of Tamar and Amnon, right? Which was what? Why does Rashi say that? Why does Rashi compare Joseph's coat to Tamar's coat? What was Tamar?
Beautiful.
The daughter of
was
a beautiful captive.
She was the daughter of a beautiful captain, but she was also
Virgin.
a virgin, and also, if she
victim, a victim.
she was a victim later, yes, but while she was wearing her untorn, what was she? She was sort of David's daughter, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a princess.
A princess, thank you. So the Ketonet Pasim is a sign of what?
Royalty.
Well,
Royalty, a sign of royalty. And that's why Jacob gave the coat of colours to Joseph, because it denoted that he was royalty. And that's why the brothers got the needle with him, because Jacob had singled him out for royalty, had singled him out above all the other brothers to be the leader, and they didn't like it because he was not one of them. He was a son of Rachel and not the son of Leah. He wasn't the firstborn, and Jacob singled him out with this coat of royalty, and that's why Rashi mentions Tamar and Amnon here, to tell us that the coat that Jacob gave to Joseph was a sign of specialness. Specialness. Yes, Hannah, you're going to disagree with me. I can feel it in my bones.
Of course. I only not the specialty bit. I mean, he made Joseph was special to Yaakov, but with the royalty bit, he would have. Yehuda was the one who took royalty in the end, and Yehuda, even in the story where they sell him to Egypt, is the leader of the gang.
Exactly. Exactly. He wanted to be the leader.
Word which rules, not yourselves.
You're agreeing with me. You're agreeing with me, Hannah, because you're right. He was the leader of the gang. Reuven was the firstborn, so he was entitled to have a beef about it. Yehuda was the leader of the gang. He was entitled to have a beef about it. And who was it that said? Who was it that said in the first place, let's get rid of him? Yehuda. He was the instigator. Go and have a look. He was the instigator, Yehuda. And why was he the instigator? Because he saw Joseph flaunting around in his coat of royalty, being the leader of the gang, or trying to be the leader of the gang, and with his dreams, which indicated that he was going to be the leader of the gang. And Yehuda did not like it, and he wanted to get rid of him. And he says, let's see what will become of these dreams of his. So, in fact, Hannah, you are agreeing with me, not disagreeing with me. That's nice. Right. So, right, let's go on. Let's go on. We've got 5 more minutes. Let's go back to, where are we? Back to Shmuel. There we go. So she had this royal garment. She's got a royal garment. It denotes her royalty, but it also denotes something that one of you said, I think it might have been Jackie, she was a virgin. She was a virgin, right? Because how do we know that? Look at verse 18. Tells us very clearly. Va'aleha, it tells us that it was a royal garment, and it tells us that it was a virgin garment. Look at it. Va'aleha ktonet pasim. Now she had on this striped tunic. Kichein tilbashen. A funny expression, that word, tilbashen. Not quite sure how you even say that. Benot Hamelech, that was the way the daughters of the king dressed. Habatulot, the virgin daughters of the king. That is how virgin princesses dressed. They had this special tunic. Vayetze ota mesharato hachutz v'na'al hadelet achareha. His servant, Amnon's servant, took her outside, kicked her out, and locked the door. This poor girl, Tamar, is now, having been raped, she's outside, locked out, and she's wearing her virgin princess garment. What does she do? Okay, don't look on. Don't look on. What would you do if you just suffered that terrible fate?
Have a bath.
You'd slink away, wouldn't you? You wouldn't slink away and go and, as it were, lick your wounds, have a bath, and mourn, right? You would be. You can't imagine. What you wouldn't do is to go and announce it to the world. Unlikely, I think. And look what she does. She is such a brave girl. Look what she does. Vatikach Tamar efer al rosha. She puts ashes on her head. What's that a sign of?
Morning.
Mourning. Uktonet apasim asher aleha kara. And the striped royal virgin garment, what does she do? She tears it. She rips it. She rips it. Vatasem yada al rosha. And she went, put her hand on her head. Vatelech haloch v'za'aka. And she went on her way, crying out loud. She doesn't slink away to the privacy of her own home to lick her wounds and to contemplate what's just happened. She goes out and publicly shows what's happened to her. What a brave thing to do. We see this, don't we, where rape victims who are allowed to be anonymous, when they come forward and they waive their anonymity. It's a very brave thing to do. And this is Tamar being an incredibly brave woman. She publicly shows what a terrible state she's in, what's happened to her. And I think it's an amazing thing.
You would have thought, though, Johnny, she would have run to David and told him.
Well, have a look at verse 21, Jackie, at the bottom of the page.
Oh, yes.
And King David heard of all these things, and he became very angry.
You didn't say that she went out in the street and cried. She just went out of the room and cried.
No, she's been locked out.
Yeah, she'd been locked out, so she went out, but she didn't go out in the public and made the marketplace or anything.
Yeah. Vatelech haloch, vatelech haloch v'zaka. She went on her way in the streets. Yeah.
Okay.
So David became very angry, Jackie.
Right.
But what did he do? What did he do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Garnished.
Nothing he did.
Garnished.
So who had to take the law into his hands, as it were?
Absalom.
Avshalom, her brother. Sound familiar to you?
Yeah. Jacob.
Shimon and Levi.
Yeah.
Jacob did nothing when Dinah was raped. Shimon and Levi did the business. So let me just have a little chat now about Tamar and what this tells us about Tamar and this whole business that she does. She waives her anonymity and she shames herself publicly. She goes out and she says, look, I've been raped. It's a dreadful thing. So it's an incredibly brave thing to do. What she's doing out, this is a public outcry against the rape of women. Tamar is an ancient heroine, an ancient feminist, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. She's an ancient feminist heroine because she goes out and she says publicly, this terrible thing has happened and you have to do something about it. This is not the way a society should behave. It's shameful. Not shameful for me, it's shameful for society. And by tearing her robe, by tearing her royal robe, it's symbolic. We know about tearing robes. Where do we know about tearing robes from?
Funeral.
The sitting shiva.
Yes, we sit shiver, we tear our clothes. Very good. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but you're right. It
Well,
denotes Shmuel. That's what I was thinking of. Let's just talk about the mourning for a second, then we'll come back to Hannah. Yes, you're right. Tearing clothes is a sign of mourning. What is she mourning, Julia?
Virginity.
Virginity.
Her virginity, her lost potential. Her lost potential. Right? She's had it. She's had this terrible thing removed from her. Hannah is what said as what I thought about. Shmuel. What happens with Shmuel and Shaul? When Shaul loses,
Cut off the corner.
yeah, when Shaul loses the kingship, there's a tearing of the robe. And also in Shmuel, when David catches Shaul unawares, he tears his robe as an indication that he could have killed him. So this is the torn robe is a symbol of loss, of mourning, lost potential, lost kingship, lost royalty. And what I find so remarkable, we're out of time now, so we'll finish in a sec. What I find so remarkable about Tamar's behavior is that she breaks the silence. It's a modern expression, but she is breaking the silence. She doesn't just slink away. She says, she gives a voice to this idea that this is not right, this behavior. And in some ways, you know, she is the symbol of bravery, and the fact that David does nothing is only deepens the sense of injustice. And she is a tragic heroine. Tamar is a tragic heroine here. And when I read this, this piece of Gemarah, and thought about the story, it never occurred to me before, but it occurred to me very strongly here that Tamar is somebody that we should have tremendous respect for. Let's just, if we can, just go back to the Gemarah just to finish.
Not only that, Tamar.
What did you say, Michael?
Not only that, Tamar.
Not only that, Tamar. You're right. You're absolutely right. I've lost the Gemarah now, so I can't go back to it.
But according to halachic, Johnny, that means she cannot get married now.
It's problematic, isn't it? Yes, problematic. So that's the lost potential. Lost potential. So I've somehow or other I've managed to lose the Gemarah, so I can't go back onto it for you. But we're out of time anyway. So what have we done today? We have spoken about the this rather bizarre suggestion by the Gemarah that Amnon hated Tamar because she, some way or other, was responsible for him having his penis severed. I think we would prefer to think of it as transference, and he hated himself. And we have then discussed the signs of being and maturity of an adult, pubic hairs, the fact that Yecheskel seems to indicate, according to Rava at least, that it is beautiful and women of the Jewish origin did not have pubic hair. We, I think, prefer Rav Steinsaltz's explanation that they shaved it, because otherwise we'd have a problem with assessing puberty, which we can't have. And then we spoke about this incredibly brave actions of Tamar, being an ancient heroine of the female world, and not allowing the silence to define her, and not allowing the injustice to define her. So that brings us almost, I think, to the end of that section. There's just one little section to go before we get to the Mishnah, which we will talk about next week. Next week, we will talk about Adoniah, another son of King David, who also did something rather strange. Nothing disgusting like we've just heard. The X-rated bit is over. You can invite your children back to the Gemarah share for next week, and we'll talk about.
There's a bit more still, Johnny, of the Amnon and Tamar story.
Have we not finished it?
No.
Oh, you're right. You're right. We've got to talk about Yichud. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. We've got to talk about Yichud. Before we get to Adoniyah, you're right. We've got to talk about Yichud. I thought we'd done that, but we haven't. I always do at least a quarter of what I think I'm going to get through, but never more when I do the prep. Right. We're well over time.
Why would they name the
before we go?
street round the corner Amnon the Tamar after Amnon such a baddie? Well,
I don't know. It's not something that, you're right. It's a fair question. It's a story in Tanakh, which we can learn from. Listen, we can learn from bad people too. We learn how not to behave.
Okay.
And certainly Tamar was a heroine. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's where the co-op shop is on the little mall. The small Poleg mall is on the street called Amnon v'Tamar.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
See you
Thanks,
all next
Johnny.
time.
That was a really good share.
Thank you.